Hello, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you for stopping by. If you've been with me since the beginning, thank you so much gratitude to you. I'm Isabel and this is my channel, From Mud. I am a Master Certified Health Education Specialist, Certified Diabetes Care and Education Specialist, Certified Fitness Trainer, and I have over 13 years of experience in the field of health and wellness, serving different populations in different settings, including behavioral health, community health, clinical health. I wanted to start this channel because if you were able to watch my premiere series on our family cancer journey and how we navigated that, you may already know that my husband and my best friend, love of my life, Justin, passed away tragically after a 2-year battle with a very rare and aggressive kidney cancer. We had two young children together. So I have a 5-year-old and an almost 3-year-old at this time. They were 3 and, well, he was almost 4 and 1 when Justin passed. And I always knew I would want to share this story, our family cancer journey story, and kind of make that a way to share insights and things that I didn't know prior to going through what we went through. I also was pregnant during that part of our story when Justin found out he was diagnosed with cancer. We found out I was pregnant 4 days later. So there just weren't a lot of stories like ours at the time. A family as young as ours with little kids. We had a toddler. I was pregnant. He had cancer. I had just lost my mom 5 months prior to that. So we had a lot going on. We were both working full time at the start of all of that. So it was just a really wild time. And I wanted to be able to share our experience to either help other people or connect with other people, or at least just stand in solidarity with people and make sure that everybody knows that you're not alone. And that whole journey helped me to realize that people are going through hard things all the time. They might not be the exact same hard things that we were going through, but everyone is going through hard stuff all the time, and life keeps moving forward, and we have to navigate these hard. We can't put life on hold while we deal with these things. Life is still moving around us. And so it inspired me to take from my knowledge and experience in the health and wellness field and trying to help people navigate wellness and do self-care in all the ways and be well in the midst of hardships and pain and loss and all the things that it means to be human. So I wanted to be able to start making content and share what I know in hopes that I could be helpful and be a place where people can feel less isolated and more connected and validated and affirmed. I'm a person who speaks my feelings freely. I've always been that way. And I know we kind of live in a society that doesn't necessarily do that. So if I can be a voice for people who are going through things that are really hard and they watch my videos and they say, yes, I feel exactly like that. That's what I'm trying to do here. I want people to feel affirmed and know that, no, it's not easy to take care of ourselves when life is hard. And yet it is the best things that we can do are self-care and taking care of ourselves to the best of our abilities and finding small ways to do those things when we can and how we can. So thank you for joining. I'm thankful for you to be here. Without further ado, I want to introduce my next idea. And in my head, I'm calling it the Widow Files. So my first series was all about from diagnosis to Justin passing and our journey and how we navigated all of that. Now I want to pick up after he passed and just talk a little bit about how I navigated life and up until the present, how I navigate life as a widow, as a single parent who lost their spouse, their partner in life. Justin was my best friend and the love of my life and my partner for the past when he passed for the previous 16 years. In that time, we were also best friends for 3 years before we started dating. We were roommates when we met. So we had a good history going. When he passed, I lost a lot. I lost my best friend. I lost my partner for the previous 16 years, my adventure partner, the father of my children, and he was an amazing dad, and he would have been an amazing dad to them their entire life. So we lost a lot. So I want to just pick up from that point where after Justin passed and what that was like for us, and particularly for me because I was carrying the load in the house. I'm going to just pick up right there. So July 18th, 2024, Justin passed away at 12:20 in the morning. I had a friend there, and she was there with her toddler to just help with anything and everything I could have needed. And my other friends had been there before that. So I had some additional support outside of my typical support network, because my friends, most of them were living outside of the state, so they had to travel to me. And they did come for those last 2 weeks of Justin's life after we got home from the hospital. So my one friend and her little toddler were there at our house when Justin passed. Justin passed in the wee hours, and we were able to, just get everything sorted. His mom was there with us. She actually was holding his hand when he passed, and she was the one who came to get me. I had fallen asleep maybe an hour and a half prior to him passing. So she came up to me, let me know he passed. We were able to make the calls we needed to make, get his body processed. They took him out of my home, and that next day, I didn't tell the kids right when they woke up. We got them ready for school and for daycare, and I got them out of the house. I didn't say anything about Justin. I just kind of left his hospice bed the way it was, and they didn't ask anything about it. It was typical for him to be sleeping as well, so I just kind of corralled them out. I was like, I want to get things ready in a way. So I got them to daycare, and then I got home and I got right to work. I started going through his medications and just getting rid of them. I remember when he passed, there was so much noise. He had an oxygen machine. There's just a lot of noise. And I remember that my nervous system was so on edge for that whole time when he was back. And I loved having him back. I was very grateful he made it out of the hospital. We were given the gift of time with him. And to keep him alive for those last 2 weeks, he needed to be on constant oxygen, and that machine is very loud. The kids are very loud. My dog was very loud. It was just the AC. It was the summer in Phoenix, so it was just so many noises, so much overstimulation. I was overwhelmed with everything. My husband was dying. I was working full-time up until the day before he passed to be with him when it was clear that he had made another step towards being closer to death. He wasn't responsive anymore. He was sleeping most of the day. So we knew his time was coming, and so I took the day off. But prior to that, I was pretty much working almost the whole time. Right when he passed, it was like I just started getting things done. I started, I turned off the oxygen machine. I just could breathe. I can feel it in my body. I remember it was such a relief to just not hear the constant noises of the house. I started just getting rid of all his stuff, all the medical stuff. I wanted the hospital bed gone. I wanted all his medical things gone. I didn't want those memories. I didn't want those things anymore. Yeah, just medications prescribed and otherwise, the different pulse oximeter, all the medical things that were part of caring for him for those last 2 weeks, I wanted them just like out of my sight. I found an organization, or I found someone in a neighborhood group who was taking, because we had a lot of medical supplies, a lot of different types of medical supplies. So she was taking any of the excess medical things and bringing it to impoverished places in Mexico where they didn't have medical supplies available. And I think it was like a Catholic charity of some kind. So she came, she picked everything up, and I think that day maybe, or the next day or something, but I started just getting everything. I broke down the hospice bed. I put that to the side, the oxygen. I started making calls for everyone to come pick things up that needed to be returned. So I got rid of all his medications. And then I don't think it was that day, but maybe over the next month, I started going through his stuff, his clothing. I started making room in the closet. And I actually embarked on a mission to pack all his things in a way for my kids. That was really what my goal was, is like I kept a few of his clothing items that, you know, I wanted to keep to wear, or that I thought were maybe a little too tattered. But I tried to save all his clothes and different little belongings and things that were his. And I tried to put them in a way with like, I put them in like airtight bags or maybe Ziploc bags and push the air out. And I wrote like a note of memories in those clothes for my kids to have later. That wasn't all in a day. That took me a long time. Like it took me several nights and days to just pack things up and organize and put things away. But I did start trying to like make space, try to store his things that I wanted to keep for my kids, and then just get rid of things that didn't need to be saved of his. I tried to put things aside for other loved ones to have a little piece of him that I thought of them and that they would want. And most importantly, you know, I started dealing with the cremation services. We went through after.com, and it was a pretty good experience. I would say they took longer getting his ashes back to me than I expected. I feel like maybe a lot of people think that it takes longer than you expect. I think that's kind of a typical response or experience. But that's the only thing. I feel like it took longer than they said it would. But otherwise, everything else was pretty smooth, and it was, you know, good price for the service. So I did that. I started jumping on top of that right away. Justin's mom left right when Justin had been taken out of the home after he passed. And she, I think, just kind of needed to do her own thing. So she kind of disappeared for a few days. And it was just me with my kids. My friend who was there, she ended up leaving in the afternoon. And my dad came. He's just a very problematic person. So it always feels like relying on him comes at a cost, comes at a price. But I had to rely on him at this point. And yeah, so I was working all day trying to just get the cremation thing done, trying to just arrange for people to come get the medical things that I just wanted out of my face. My children went to school, and I knew that once they came home, I already had a plan. I had spent the previous weeks. Once we got Justin home, I started getting to work with an idea I had come up with, which was a gift from heaven. So I put it in a bag. I put a bunch of stuff in there. I wrote a little card. So anyway, my kids come home, and I was just so nervous. I was just dreading having to tell them that he had passed. The previous day, my friend who was there did a good job kind of distracting them and making sure they were having fun. And, you know, they would, to them, it was like Justin was just sleeping. So when they came home, I brought them up to our play area, and, his bed was gone. And so I kind of kicked it off like that. I think I said something like, hey, do you guys notice that Daddy's not here? And, my son was 3. He was a month out from being 4. So he was almost 4. My little one was 1. So she, almost 1.5. So, her comprehension was a little different, but she definitely noticed that Daddy wasn't there. So then, I said, Daddy's not here, and that's because Daddy died. And I had a lot of support from the social workers at Mayo Clinic, where he was getting his treatment, on how to have these conversations with them. I had been kind of prepping them so that they could understand what it meant when somebody died, and so that they could, understand that he's not coming back. That was the most important thing that they really emphasize, is like, you don't want to leave any room for them to think he's coming back. You want to make sure they understand it's permanent, and what it means when someone dies. So at least for the year prior to that, but maybe even for the full 2 years or a year and a half in his battling period, the 2 years where he battled, anytime we would see something dead, like a dead bug or a dead animal on the road, I would talk about it, and I would kind of use that as a learning opportunity to try and illustrate what it means to be dead. So, if we saw a dead bug, like, oh, that bug is dead, that means that its body stopped working and it won't come back. It's just gone, So I had done a lot of that groundwork ahead of time, and they understood. Even my 1-year-old, she could understand, but especially my 3-year-old, he really understood. So we had many conversations about what it meant to be dead, when your body stops working, your heart stops working, your brain. When Justin was ill, and they would ask questions about his breathing tubes, and we would say, well, Daddy has cancer, and this is what cancer means, and it means that there's something in your body that's not supposed to be there, and it's hurting your organs, and if your organs can't work, then your body shuts down and then it stops working. So that's kind of how I did a lot of the prep ahead of time, to try and prepare them to understand what it means when Daddy died. So I just told them directly, and just like that, Daddy's not here because he died. His body died. We believe in an afterlife. I'm spiritual, so I share my spiritual beliefs. I make sure my kids know that there are other ideas out there and belief systems, and that this is just what mommy believes, but we don't know 100% based on science what happens. But I say, Daddy's body died because of the cancer, and I believe that he goes to heaven. I just use heaven as the best way to explain what I think happens after we die, so that they can understand. So that's what I said to them. We have a spirit and a soul inside. This is what I say. This is what mommy believes. We have a spirit and a soul inside. That's what makes us who we are, makes us our jokes and our laugh and the things we like. That's our soul. And we're just inside this body. And when our body dies, our soul leaves and it goes back to heaven, and where our loved ones whose bodies die can watch over us. And now they're free, and they can be everywhere and be with us on our journey. Even though we can't see them or touch them, I just trust that they're there. So that's kind of how I explained it. I tried to keep it really simple and brief with them because they are so young, but I wanted them to understand kind of what happened. And I just remember my son was like, Daddy died? And then I was like, yeah, Daddy died. And then they were both just kind of quiet and looking at me. I said, well, Daddy left this gift from heaven bag. So it was a gift bag. And we had actually had plans to go to Rhode Island to visit his brother and my nephews, my brother-in-law's children. a few weeks prior to his passing. So I had bought all these toys and stuff for the plane ride, like activities and things. So I threw those in there. I threw bath bombs in there that come with the little toys, so it could be like, you know, associated with that time. And I had like a little note that I wrote from Justin from heaven to the kids. And so like I showed them the gift. I said, this is from Daddy from heaven. He wanted to give you something. And so I said, let me read the card. And actually, let me see if I can read it for you. I read them this note. It says, "Dear kids, it's me, Dad. I'm writing this to you from heaven. As you know, I was not feeling good for a long time because of the cancer that was in my body. It made my heart stop working, which means my body died, and you won't be seeing me anymore. When that happened, my soul, that's who I really am, who we all really are, went to heaven, where I will watch over you. Even though you won't always see me, just know I'm right there next to you. Always. I'm so proud to be your dad. Love you always and forever. Love, Daddy. P.S. I got you some gifts just to make you smile. And the bears are to hug me. And the bears are to hug when you miss me. And know that I feel it in heaven." The bears were Build-A-Bear bears that I got. And I had the little buttons with his heartbeat that they gave me from the hospital. And a good tip they gave was, when you do those recordings, just make sure you put it on your phone too. Because, like, for example, I got the Build-A-Bear one done, and at this point they've run out of batteries and you can't actually get it out. So that would be another thing. I saw options of bears you could get with the heartbeat, but you can access the heartbeat. So I would do that, and that way you could change out the batteries, because my kids were pretty disappointed when the heartbeat stopped working and inside the bear, and now I can't change that. But I got these Build-A-Bears, and I put these LA Lakers onesies that were actually my firstborn's onesies when he was a baby, and then our second one also wore them. But Justin was a big Lakers fan, so I put those onesies on the bears. So they each got a bear. They got, you know, the airplane toys that we had planned, the bath bombs, so that they could start collecting, you know, those little toys. And I just, at the time, I felt very sentimental about it. Like, they'll cherish these little tiny toys that come in the bath bomb, and like, that'll be gift from heaven toys. You know, they're so little, so it's like they're not processing in any way like a grown-up. So it was like, Daddy died? And I said, yeah, Daddy died. His body died. And it was like, oh, okay. And then on to the gift. So I actually think it was a good, because they can't talk things out, right? So I think it was actually a good way to distract them so that they weren't just trying to sort out what they're feeling. They had somewhere to put their energy, and then it was just something to like make them happy in the moment. It was like, okay, let's go swimming, because we had a pool. So then we went into the pool, and again, being trapped inside while my husband was on loud machinery, just trapped in our house because the heat outside in Phoenix is so crazy and like you can't escape. Thankfully, we were able to go in the pool a lot of the time. That was because you can't do anything else really. You can't go on walks. You can't just be outside most of the day. You have a very small window in the early part of the day, but by like 8 o'clock, it's over 90 degrees. And in the evenings, it's still in the hundreds and like high 90s after the sun goes down. So it's not comfortable to go out walking or anything at that time. And even being in the pool at 115 degrees is not fun. So you really are trapped. Like, I felt so trapped, and I felt so trapped by the sun and the heat and just having to be inside with my two kids who just want to run around. But also Dad's right here dying, and we have a front row seat because we can't be anywhere else. We have to be in the house. So we went to the pool. Again, my friend was there, so she swam with us. And it was good. Like the kids were doing okay. Everybody was happy and enjoying. And, I ripped off the Band-Aid. I told them what I needed to tell them. They seemed to take it pretty well. My daughter was super attached to her bear. She kept playing his heartbeat over and over again, and she would like rock to it. She would dance. She would be like dancing to it. I have videos of her doing that. She kept playing it over and over again and holding it to her face and just snuggling it really tight, like squeezing so tight. And my son, again, he seemed to like understand, and he was processing it, and he seemed okay. But then later at night, I just remember he came to me, and he just like, he was just crying about his dad, and he fell asleep holding that bear in my bedroom. And so that first night, I just remember feeling like this emptiness, just like a hole in my chest. Just realizing that he was gone, and that we're on this whole new journey, whole new chapter for us. I wasn't experiencing the shock that comes with a sudden loss. I was mentally prepared for this and how I was going to help my kids through this, how I was going to manage, what my plan was going to be. So it was just accepting everything that had happened. Just realizing that I was going to carry the burden of my own loss and losing someone I had been so tied to and who I loved so much, and who was my friend, my closest friend for the previous, like physically we were together all the time for the previous, for sure 13 years, but even those first 3 years when we were just friends, we were hanging out and doing fun stuff all the time together. So like for 16 years, he was my person. Just mourning and just grieving the fact that all of our memories our story was already written. Our story had ended. Our physical time together on earth had ended. And all the memories we had are all the memories we will have. And we won't be able to make any new memories physically on earth together. I've never wanted to be the type of parent who doesn't talk things through with my kids. I truly believe there is a way to talk about everything in an age-appropriate way. So I always knew I wanted to be very open. I wanted to be a place where we keep Daddy's memory alive. We talk about him. We look at videos of him. We look at pictures. We can interact with him and keep his memory alive that way. Yeah, there are so many different things that would just come up. But I would say, so those immediate 2 days after he passed, so I took my 3 days of bereavement. I don't think I took very much time off, but those 2 days where I didn't have anybody with me, it was just me and my kids, those were super hard days, just trying to hang on. It was just raw. There was like this emptiness, there was this dread, there was this just pain, the pain of the loss and the aloneness. And like, I was used to doing things alone already because Justin was ill for a good amount of the time he battled, and he was ill in a way where he couldn't really help. So like, I already learned how to keep the ship running by myself for the kids, get them dressed, get them to school, make meals, clean the house, do my own work. I was working full time, and I had been newly promoted just a few months prior. So I'm sure in a way it was like a welcome distraction, because I was able to put all my energy into doing stuff for work and just getting caught up. So like, it really helped me focus on something, and I just dove right back into work and I got all caught up. But yeah, those 2 days, it was like just emptiness and pain and like sadness, but also trying to not worry my kids. I'm not afraid for them to see me cry, but I always want to make sure they don't see me crying or upset in a way that makes them feel responsible to take care of me or help me, and I don't want to worry them. So, I think it's important to cry in front of them, but also I felt like it was important not to upset them. So I was trying to find that balance and just to be able to prioritize their feelings. And, another group of people, or another couple people I was especially concerned about, my little sisters, they are 20 and 22 years younger than me. They have experienced so much loss and hardship at such a young age. And losing Justin was in my life for 16 years. He had known them for at least 13 of those years. He had known them all their lives, basically. So that was their brother. And that was, even when me and their mom had our hardships and challenges, Justin was always a constant person they could lean on. He was a constant light. He was a constant positive male role model when they have very limited positive male role models in their lives. So losing Justin, after all the losses they already experienced, heartbreaking. Justin meant a lot to so many people. People only had positive things to say about him. He was so loved. He was so cherished. He was so fun. He was so positive. He was just a light in everybody's life. And he was a brother to my sisters. He was someone that they knew of as their brother. So now they've lost a brother on top of the other people they've lost and the hardships they live with under, being the children of my dad, who is a actively harmful alcoholic and person who just struggles with a lot of mental health issues that are typical for other people struggling with addiction. And they still came down to help me. Them and their mom, they were constantly coming down, especially in the summer, because they weren't in school, so they were able to come down all the time, stay with us, take the kids to swim in the pool, take the kids to the playground. My dad was even around, and he was, doing well at that point with us. He's typically not the person I want to rely on, but I will just say during this time when Justin was in the hospital, we didn't think he was going to make it out of the hospital in early July, end of June, early July. He was showing up because he knew how to do the daycare drop-offs and pickups. He's overall a fun person to know, especially for little kids. He has a career in Parks and Rec. And so he was there. He would take them to the pool. He would take them to the playground. He'd just talk to them, play with them, distract them. And really, that was one of the best things people could do for me in that time frame after Justin passed, was just to help me with the kids, because it was me all the time with the kids all the time. So having people who were offering and willing to help with the kids, that helped a lot. And I will say, like, my mother-in-law did fulfill her duties, and she was around. It wasn't like she completely disappeared, but she definitely, I felt, backed away at that point. All of the pain of losing your child and watching your child die, I think she just was like, I lost my son, and then 4 years prior to losing her son, or 3.5 years prior to losing her son, she lost her husband and mom the same year. 3 years prior to that, she lost her dad to cancer, and she also held his hand as he passed as well, and Justin and I were there in his final hour as well. So she just had loss after loss after loss, and I think she just did not have the capacity to be there for me emotionally at all. And I'm a very emotionally expressive and verbal person, so I think, honestly, that's just a lot for their family. I don't think they can handle me. They kind of they said they were giving me space and knew that my friend was coming in on Saturday, but in those 2 days when I was by myself, I didn't have them around very much. I think my mother-in-law didn't come back. He passed on like the wee hours of Thursday morning. I don't think I saw her until that Sunday. So I just tell myself that they were grieving in their own ways, and I believe they didn't really have the capacity to be there for me in my grief and for my children in their grief. I think they were probably in some ways just like needed to let go of all of what we witnessed in the previous couple weeks and in those previous 2 years, and just needed to breathe and like be separated from the cancer and the journey and all the things we had been through. I don't know. This is just, I don't know, because I have not been able to have these conversations with them despite me asking. So those couple days until my best friend got to me on that Saturday, it was like I'm just barely holding on. I just feel this dread and like I don't know how to get through it, and it's just this discomfort and this like anxiety and just like I don't know, very unsettling feelings. I also kept feeling Justin's presence. Like I would walk by the loft and I would feel him just laying there on the couch the way he was those previous 2 weeks when he'd be hanging out, and I could swear I could feel him. Yeah, just like a lot of crying, a lot of breaking down into tears, remembering things. Then my best friend since I was 15, she's my sister. I call her my sister. She came in from Portland, Oregon, and she stayed with me for like 10 days or 12 days or something like that. I'm so grateful that she came in and was able to be there for us in that immediate time after his passing, because I'm sorry to say this, and I'm not trying to talk shit, but I felt pretty let down with my in-laws. You know, when you lose someone that you're so close to, I figured that we would be brought closer together. I thought that the hole where Justin would be filled with us moving closer together. That's kind of how it was when his dad passed. And I expected that. I expected us to be closer, especially his mom, because she was always one of the main other people besides my sisters and their mom who were close to my kids and me at the time. So I was surprised when like she wasn't reaching out to check on us. Eventually I messaged them and said like, hey, if you guys are giving me space, just know that I don't need that. I need more closeness. It is important to me that we are connected and together and talking to each other and helping each other through this time. So like, please don't not reach out on my account. And their responses were basically like, oh, we knew that your friend was there. We wanted to give you space and allow you to have that time together and blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Don't do that. Please. You know, and this is the thing. If they needed that for themselves, that's one thing. I will accept that if you don't have the capacity to support. But if it's just that you're trying to be polite or something, and I verbally tell you, like, I don't need that, listen to the person and what they need. If you're not able or willing to do that, then say that. But don't act like it's because you're trying to benefit me. That didn't benefit me. So if you are the type of person who feels like you're intruding when hard things happen, unless you know that about them and they told you give them space, err on the side of they don't need space. We are beings who are meant to live in villages. We are meant to have community. We need that to lean on. We need that support. Err on the side that they need you, that they need to hear from you. They need to know you're thinking about them. You know, err on that side. I would say don't err on the side of like, oh, they don't want to bother them. Unless they have specifically told you and you know they mean it. But otherwise, even if they told you they don't need the check-ins, like just letting them know you're thinking about them. That way, if they do want to reach out and talk, it's easier for them. Like you're making it easier. But unfortunately, one of the first major actions on their part that now that where I'm at with it, I can reflect and say, you know what? It all adds up to this story of where I'm at now. And that was my clue that, I'm sorry to say it, but they don't see me as family. Again, I don't want this to be like a shit talking session, and I'm trying not to do that. I'm just trying to share my perspective because this was a hardship that I did not expect. I never expected to grieve the loss of my husband, the father of my young children, and to also grieve the loss of severed ties with his family, who things went so sideways throughout that first year after he passed. That was just a loss I never expected. And it still breaks my heart. I've accepted it, and I'm in a better place now with where I chose to move and how everything played out. And I'm grateful that I made the decisions that I made. But that was just something that I never expected. You know, grief makes people do crazy things. I didn't expect it to be distancing from me and my children, but I am assuming I'm not the first that has happened to. So my best friend comes in. I am so fortunate that I have amazing friends. I have always had amazing friends. People that I call family. They are my friend family. They are the people I choose, my chosen family. I'm so fortunate because they showed up for me. They literally showed up for me, and they showed up for me in different ways, me and my kids. In those initial couple months after Justin's passing, we had a lot of support. A lot of people checking in on me, not as much my in-laws, but we had a lot of people checking in on us. My best friend comes in, she's there for us, she's helping with a lot of different things. She's a teacher, elementary school teacher, so she knows how to keep the kids distracted. She's a mom. We were pregnant at the same time for both our bio kids, and so she knows what she's doing. She helped so much. She tried to talk to my mother-in-law and just kind of let her know, you know, like, hey, Isabel's gonna need a lot of support. You know, she needs you to be there. And my mother-in-law, to our face, assured us that she would be there for us. She's here to help. All I need to do is ask, these kinds of things. So my best friend was like, okay, I feel like she gets it. You know, I feel like she knows you, and she knows what you need, and sounds like she's prepared to be there for you, and like she can handle it, you know. And to my face, she was very like that. Like, we're family. We're all in this together, that kind of thing. But the immediate first month after his passing was kind of a blur at this point, especially because, like, not only everything, but like the summer and the heat there, and you can't go out and you're limited on what you can do. And also, like, I'm really starting to learn how to do things on my own with the kids and trying not to be afraid to juggle both kids when I go do things. That was something my best friend who came, that was one big lesson I took from that, which was do things with the kids. Don't just sit in the house, get out. At least I was like, I'm gonna at least try to do one outside the house thing every weekend. So that was something I really tried to emphasize in that initial period after his passing. Yeah, so when she was there, you know, she got us out of the house. She kind of helped me realize that, like, I need to not just sit in the house. I need to take the kids and do things and do fun stuff and just make sure that I stay busy. It's good for me. It's good for the kids. And it, again, one of the big challenges was that it was the summer. We were trapped inside, but that was something I really carried through. So after she passed, I had kind of resolved to make sure that I always keep things busy. So after Justin passed, I got a therapist. I wanted to make sure that I had a counselor that I could talk to and that the kids could talk to. So I got that set up. I got a therapist for all of us just to help me help them process the grief and to just make sure I'm doing things the right way, that is for the best outcomes with my kids, and make sure that they are set up in a way to healthily process this pain and this grief. And for me as well, for me to, you know, be able to process my grief and carry their grief and all the things. So my sister best friend leaves. Early August, I had another friend come in, the one who was there during his week out of the hospital. Her and my other friend, they both came and helped a lot during that time for the week that he had gone back from the hospital. And so she came back to visit. And again, it was just nice because, like, I would have someone else to go do things with. Like, I had to figure out what things I felt comfortable doing by myself. And if I had someone there to do things with me, like take them to the Museum of Music, which is an excellent museum in the Phoenix area, world-class museum. But she came with me to do that. We went to like this comic book restaurant, which it's like me with my two little ones at a restaurant. That was a no-go. I did not do that. And I still don't really enjoy doing that with them, even at these ages, because my kids are very active and mischievous. So it's just not fun going to restaurants with them. And also driving. We were in Surprise, Arizona, and everything we would have to do that was fun usually was going to be like in the Scottsdale area, which is about 45 minutes from us. So it was like with my 2 kids later in the month, at the end of the month, around Labor Day. I had another friend of mine who's been, all of my friends, my closest friends who come they're mostly like 10 plus year friends, 10 to 20 to 25 year friendships. So I had another friend come into town from LA, and he, again, it was just nice to have another adult around who can like just stay with the kids while I go run to the bathroom, or, you know, stay with the kids while I do something over here. Cause it is just, that kind of stuff was hard. Like I couldn't leave them very much because my 3-year-old is very like handsy and invasive and touching faces, and like he has cute aggression with my baby. So it was always nerve-wracking even to just leave them for me to go to the bathroom. So like when he would come, we could go in the pool, and I would have another hand on deck for the pool, and we would just go do fun things, like go to the playground. Again, like you don't want to be at a playground with a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old who's like running all around, because, you know, fears and concerns and things. So like just having people come to me and help, or another friend of mine made a meal train for us. Justin's college buddies created a GoFundMe for us. We had people send their babysitters. We had people sending their cleaners to us, bringing us food, checking on us, texting us, praying for us. All those things were helpful. And then my son had his first day of pre-K at the public school. They had like a mini program. So he would do some of the time at daycare, and then the pre-K had their program starting up. He also was signed up for baseball. So like we were still just moving along. But that first month, it was just kind of muddling through, you know, like I remember getting the weekend scaries, like my therapist called it the Sunday scaries, and it was always Sunday. So when she said that, I was like, is that a thing? Because I feel that like every time Sunday rolls around, it's like, I don't know. The only way I can describe it is like, I don't know how I'm going to make it through the day. I don't know how I'm going to make it to the next day with my kids. And like, at the same time, my kids are right next to me, and I'm just sitting there with them and trying to put on a happy face for them so they're not seeing mommy depressed all the time and worrying about me and feeling like they need to take care of me or anything like that. Like that was important to me, to make sure that I hold myself up and I can cope with my emotions in an appropriate way so that I can best support them. But there were so many times of just dread and pain that I was just taking on by myself. And there was a lot of times I was by myself at my house because my friends from out of town, from California, from Portland, Oregon, they couldn't be there with me all the time. So when they would come in, it would be like a little relief. It's like, I just need to make it to when so-and-so can come and be with us. And then when they would get there, it'd be like, oh my God, a relief. Someone who can help me with meals, who can help me with the kids, who can just give me a minute to breathe. All of it was helpful. I had so much support from a lot of different people especially in those first couple months after Justin passed, and I was kind of getting my bearings and figuring out how I'm going to navigate life without him. I don't know if this is helpful for anybody. It's just my experience. I'm just sharing my story. I guess I'll just wrap it up with kind of a summary. You know, after Justin's passing, I think the things that were most helpful to get through that was the gift from heaven that I made, that really, and the card where I wrote out what I wanted to say, and all the prep I did before that of teaching them what death is in a kid-appropriate way. And I had a lot of support from social workers at the Mayo Clinic, the family and children social workers. They helped a lot. They gave me books. Why Do Things Die? That is one book that they gave me that was great. The Invisible String, that was another one that we started reading ahead of time. That was a good one to read beforehand, I think, just so they understand the concept. That way, when Dad passed, they're like, oh, we still have our invisible string connection with Dad. So Why Do Things Die? The Invisible String. She also had books that she actually wrote. Someone I love does doesn't feel good. And then there was another one that was like, someone I love doesn't feel good and will not get better, or something like that. So those are a little beyond my kids' age, but the why do things die and the invisible string, those worked out well. So just prepping ahead of time of what is death in a way that gives you the verbiage to explain to young kids. And maybe I'll do a separate video about that, but the gift from heaven, the card that I wrote them, having someone else there, having other friends, a friend, and then my dad came also to take the kids to the pool and just make sure we do some fun stuff with them that day so that they can kind of just process in their kid way. And then having a friend come right away after he passed, having someone I was so comfortable with and trusted so much that I could just be myself and who's willing to help and who actually is helpful. Forcing myself to get out and do things that I felt comfortable enough doing, even if it was just a walk to the local playground, but forcing myself to not just stay in the house every weekend, even though it was hard, that was good. And then, yeah, all the things that people did, the meal trains, the food they would bring, the cleaners, the door dashes so that I didn't have to leave by myself with my kids, and like that kind of stuff. Being able to order delivery was really helpful for me as a new widow with 2 little ones that I don't want to have to put in the car every time I go somewhere. All that stuff was helping. So like everything everybody was doing was helpful. I had great neighbors who were there for us through all of that, and then after as well, again, like checking on us and just bringing us food and just making sure we're okay. If I needed help with my car, I had a next door neighbor who was like good with cars and he would help me with that. I had a friend who was a friend from daycare, like my son's daycare. She came like 10 days after he passed and brought all her kids and her husband, and we all were in the pool. So like just people trying to physically be there for us or sending things to help and make the load easier for me. All of that was really helpful. So if you're going through this right now or something similar and these words are resonating with you, my heart goes out to you and I feel you, and like you will get through. Things will change, and just keep trying to take that next step. That's it. Just keep trying to take the next step. Reach out for supports. Write things out, record things, reach out to people, try to reach out as much as you can when you need it, because there's going to be a lot of times where you don't reach out or there's nothing anyone can do and you're just alone in your thing and you're just processing. And it's something I always tell my kids is that these feelings come and go, right? Like we're always going to have some grief that comes up and some pain from that grief that comes up throughout our life, but it won't be a constant. It won't always be there. So it will pass. You just have to endure it. And when it's fresh like that, you're just surviving. So whatever you can do to make your life easier, to make your load lighter, do that. Sometimes it's just about staying home and crying and whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. Like those immediate days and months after a major loss like that, you're just doing what you can. And if you're in the middle of it, like your loved one is ill and you just don't know where things are gonna go, all I can say is I affirm you, that is torture. It is absolute torture. And I can just tell you that I'm on the other side of that, and things are bright and happy and positive for me and my kids now. And I didn't know how I was going to get there when I was in the middle of it, but I did. And I pray and I send out all the positive vibes and everything, all the energy, that you reach that point too, and that your family reaches peace, and that everybody reaches peace and healing. So thank you for being here. I will keep going with my widow tales or widow files and wellness topics and everything. So be well, and I'll see you next time.